Hi.
Good morning.
How do you guys doing today?
Oh, good.
Remind me again.
Brenda and
Brenda.
Chris.
I was going to say this. Brenda and Chris?
Yes.
Yeah, Brenda.
I had the Chris right.
Steve,
That's okay.
Sharon, and Norm. Glad to have you with us. We just started our live stream up. Don't worry, you're not on it. I am. It'll pick up voices, but nobody knows who you are. We're still live streaming for folks that can't make it in for one reason or another. So we're going to do that for, I don't know how long, probably forever, I guess.
Well, it's
Anyway.
nice.
Yeah, it's nice, especially when you have to miss it. I'm going to be on vacation, so I'm going to miss a couple times, so I'm going to tune in. So, yes, it has its advantages that way. Anyway, so for the audience online, my name is Norm Ellis. This is the Adult One Bible Study for Grace Baptist Church. Glad to have you people here in-house and online as well. And I just hope you have a good time today with our study. It's a great, great study. Okay, last week we were in probably the most popular psalm of all, which was the 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd, right? Well, this is probably ranks up there close to the top. Also, I would say this is probably in the running for the second most popular psalm. It's Psalms 139. And so we're going to be in Psalm 139 today. We're not going to look at all the verses, but we're going to look at some of the salient ones, the important to our subject today. And our subject is God's greatness. His greatness, we're going to be looking at that. And in these three areas, His knowledge, verses 1 through 4 of Psalm 139. His presence, verses 7 through 12. And His power, 13 through 16. And if you're following along in a study book, and I can get one for you if you want, if you don't have one, well, you got me good. We're in session number 12, starts on page 104. So that helps you put where we're going to be looking. We're not going to go word for word through the book per se, but it's a good guide, and a lot of stuff I did cover the same thing. The main point today, the main idea is that because God has made us, He knows us personally and is with us always. And that's important for Christians to understand that, right? And we'll be looking at these three areas in our verses. I'm just going to touch on it. Omniscience, omnipresent, and omnipotent. Those are $10 words. But they're important words because they're about the nature of God, right? Anyway, so let's have a word of prayer and we'll jump right into our study today. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this time we have to study your word. Your word is precious to us, Lord. And Lord, certain things are exciting. This is one of those exciting ones to me. It goes to the core of who you are and who we should be for you, Lord. And I just thank you so much. These words that David wrote so many years ago. Lord, I pray that you be with those that are on their way still to church. Keep them safe as they're traveling. Thank you for the people that are here today and online as well. And just pray that you'd help us as we go through these verses to learn what they mean for us in our lives today, Lord. And that's the most important thing. Thank you in your Son's name. Amen. All right. So I think it's still running. Yep. And I got volume. Good. So many things go wrong with this live stream. It's amazing. And I'm also at the whim of Wi-Fi, which irritates me sometimes. I forgot to ask, would any of you guys like to read a verse? Okay. Who likes to read? There's a big one for you. Would you like a small one?
I like the small.
That's right. Now I got rid of all my verses. Oh no, what am I going to do?
Here, you can have a big one from me.
Anyway, like I said, the main idea is because God has made us, He knows us personally and is with us. Keep that in mind as we go through this lesson, because that's going to be referring back to that again. Our introduction here, why is it important to know your purpose in life, do you think? Is it important to know your purpose in life? Do you think, first of all, I guess I should say, do you think you have a purpose in life?
I would so.
I would hope so. As a Christian, because we know that God guides us, right? So why would He not guide us unless He has a purpose for us, right? So,
Well, and he created man and woman and gave them a purpose.
Yeah.
And,
Mhm.
from
Yeah.
there on, we try, but,
Right.
we all have a purpose, I think.
So the key here is, what is that purpose, right? And what happens when you don't know your purpose? Can it be distracting? Can it be frustrating, perhaps? Other words you might say to that, right? What happens if you don't? I would say you could be aimless in your direction, maybe in life, right? Things like that happen. So we're going to look at the intro paragraph today. In the intro paragraph, I got it on my handouts on the first page, in the middle of the first page. Those of you on the line, I've said this before, but if you want a copy of our handouts, We will send them to you in email. So just contact our pastor, Pastor Matthew Ellis at Grace Baptist Church here in Vancouver, and he can make sure you get on the mailing list for those as well. Anyway, so the intro paragraph says, anyone who has given instruction to teenagers has likely been asked some form of this question. Why do I need to know this? Now, okay, I'm going to stop there for a moment there. This is the classic thing. You go through and you get algebra taught to you and all these, the whatever quadratic equation, and you wonder after you go through those, am I ever going to use this?
Yeah.
Well, I've never used a quadratic equation.
No.
I've used a lot of the other things I've learned that I thought I'd never use. But some of those things we just don't use. We wonder, why are we learning them, right?
You are using them not in a mathematical
Yeah.
way, because what it's trying to teach you is how to think logically
Yeah,
through a problem.
training your brain to do those things, and that's important. But anyway, but people, the kids, they want to know its purpose for their lives. What does it do for us, right? Having a sense of purpose is fundamental to all human beings. The reason for this is that God made us for His purposes, that we might love, serve, and glorify Him. In Psalm 139, David expresses his amazement over this wonderful truth. And a couple questions are asked. Why is it important to know your purpose in life? We talked about that already, right? And what happens when you don't? You get frustrated, right? You wonder, why? What am I supposed to be doing in my life? And that can be something that can frustrate people a great deal. So then, what do you think the purpose is? What do you think is the purpose that God has for your life? Is kind of a fundamental thing. There's a study course. It's a Christian study course. It's by I forgot. It's called Knowing and Doing the Will of God.
Henry Blackaby.
Henry Blackaby. Yes, very great study. We're going to go into that again in our church. We've done this a couple of times many years ago, so it's been a long time. So I might take it again because it's a great one. It helps you to be in tune with what God might want you to be doing in your life. And I think most of us agree that's an important thing. So if you can, let Pastor Matthew know that you want to be part of that study course. I don't know how many weeks it is. I think it might be something like 8 weeks, maybe 4. I don't know. But he can tell you. But it's a great study to be in. I've done it before, and I'm looking forward to going through it again personally. Okay, so have you ever... my sons do this all the time. It drives me up the wall. They take their phones, and I don't know what they're doing because I'm not that tech savvy. You guys probably know. And he'll say something in it with his voice, and then he'll start dictating different things, like a text message or whatever it might be, or something to his calendar, and it boggles my mind. But anyway, it says to command the digital voice assistant on your phone to find the answer to a question or to tell a joke. Okay, what will happen? What will Google tell you? What will Siri tell you? Sometimes they'll be stumped and they'll say, I don't have enough information for that. Or sometimes they'll come up with something off the wall, crazy. It's funny to do that. My oldest son has one of these ones in his house. I wouldn't like that because it's always on. I don't care what they say. It could be listening. Maybe I'm paranoid. But you say, hey Google, and it goes cling, as if now I'm awake and listening. No, you're always awake and listening. But then you ask it a question like, something like, what is the purpose of life? And it'll go into some weird thing, or whatever it might be. I like to do that because I like to stump them sometimes. But anyway, our wonderful technology makes it easy to uncover some info or to get answers to certain questions. But the question of why, you ask it why in certain things, and it's going to be probably not no, right?
Yeah.
This often requires more than our smartphones, smart in quotes, can provide. So David had questions. David, and who wrote this song? Well, we now know. I gave the cat out of the bag. It was King David, right? He wrote Psalm 139. Great psalm. Ranks right up there. If you were to list your favorite psalms, you probably have this, like I said, up there quite a ways. But he had questions. And Psalm 139 offers a testimony of what God taught him as he sought answers. Now, did David have a great, smooth, wonderful life? Everything perfect and serene? No, he didn't, did he?
Well, part of the time he did.
Well,
there was things came up.
What was some of the things that happened to David that you can think of? Good and bad, I guess, but mainly the things that maybe rocked his boat a little bit.
king had him hunted down, tried to kill him.
He was being pursued by King Saul. Yeah, he wanted him dead. Why did he want him dead?
Because he knew he was going to take over.
He was competition, yeah. Yeah, because remember what Nathan the prophet, I think it was Nathan the prophet did. Or Samuel. Samuel. Then later Nathan. But Samuel had anointed him with oil, so you are going to be the next king. And I'm not going to go into the whole details. It's quite an interesting thing. You read about it yourself if you'd like to. But how he got down to David after going through all the sons, all the older ones, the nice looking ones, the great smart, strong guys, and he came all this little shepherd boy out there. And he anointed him to be the next king. You think that was done in a vacuum? You think nobody ever heard of that? No. I'm pretty sure Saul got wind of that. What do you mean the prophet went down to Jesse's house and anointed a new king? What? I'm king! So he was pursuing him, trying to kill him. That's one thing. Even before that, the lion and the bear tried to attack the flock, and he had to fight the lion and the bear off, right? Later on, he fell into sin.
Yes.
Grievous sin. Where he took another man's wife and killed the husband, had the husband killed. He's just as soon as murdered him himself, because the instruction he gave was go into the thick of the battle, put
him up front.
The guy up there, I forgot his name now, put him up there and then pull back.
Oh, I didn't remember that he said to pull back. But I
Yeah,
remember
they left this guy by himself to fight against Philistines or whoever they were. Basically, it was a death sentence. He had him murdered. And so he had a lot of issues in his life, didn't he? But the thing was, he always came back to God, and he realized, I've sinned, and he asked God to forgive him, right? So anyway, all that to say, David had a lot, and we just barely touched some of the things he's gone through. David had a lot in his life, and do you think he learned from those things in his life?
He did.
Oh, sure he did. Yeah, sure he did. So that's why these Psalms are so important to us. It's great to read about it, like in 1st and 2nd Samuel, what he went through, but the Psalms give us insight into David's heart. It's, just the facts, you see a report on the news, but you don't know the backstory, you don't know all the ins and outs of what happened in that event, whatever it was.
Especially anymore.
David gives us insight into what he was experiencing, what touched his soul. And that's important. It says to point out item number 9, which is handout number 2, which is organizing the Psalms, which I think I covered it up. Oh well, did I cover it up? No, it's behind me. It's the types of Psalms. It's the same idea. They're organizing them in these areas. But we also have it in our handouts, which should be handout number 2, organizing the Psalms. Yep. Pretty close. Oh, this is better information. That's why I made a copy for you. It tells you what these different Psalms are in detail and how to describe them.
It's a Thanksgiving one, it says.
So this is a Thanksgiving Psalm, right? Is that what you just said? Yep. Mm-hmm. It is a Psalm of Thanksgiving. If you look at the title, a lot of the Psalms have titles, and on this particular one, well, maybe not. I know I had it. Oh, here it is. No, it's not it.
It says for the choir director, a Davidic song.
Yeah. Well, anyway, one of the titles I read gave it that a Psalm of Thanksgiving by David.
Oh.
And so they'll do that a lot of times in the Psalms. They'll give you that little subtitle for the Psalm. So we know that David wrote it, and we know what it was about. Thanksgiving, right? So David found a lot to be thankful for when it came to God's work in his life. The first thing he identified related to God's character, especially the fact that he knew him so well. And we're going to talk about that in our first point here. In the study book, there's something called Understanding the Context, and that gives you like a thumbnail sketch of what we're going to be talking about. Again, and this is on page 105. It was written by King David, but details are lacking concerning historical context. Why did he write Psalm 139 is what they're talking about. What is apparent in verses 19 to 22 is that David was being threatened by, you are bloodthirsty, who were also enemies of God, people who said those things. David contemplated God's omniscience, omnipresence, and his creation and judgment of humanity, and was amazed by how these truths revealed the Lord's personal interest in him. He he realized that God's hand was upon him. Is God's hand upon us as Christians? Yeah, it is. God's hand is upon us as well. So what David is talking about, each one of us should be experiencing and understanding as well. It says, in response, David praised the Lord and wanted to have that right relationship with him. So in the first section, David acknowledges how God demonstrated his care for David. He was amazed that God knew him intimately. And then in verses, I'm going to go to the next paragraph. Then next, David professed that before he was even born, he had been personally created and intricately formed by God. And in the last paragraph says, finally, David declared his loyalty to God by rejecting those who were God's enemies, asking God to exact his righteous judgment on them. David concluded this section requesting that the Lord, who intimately knew his heart and thoughts, would root out any sin in his own life. David's greatest desire was to fulfill God's purpose for his life. And that's where we're talking about our purpose. You know, in general, what is a Christian's purpose? In general, what do you think? I'll give you a hint. It's underneath the clock.
It's at the clock.
Underneath the clock.
Oh, underneath it.
The Great Commission,
Oh.
right? In Matthew, he gives us a purpose as Christians, right? Now, how we do that is tailored to each one of us personally, right? But we are to go out and to share the gospel message, to make disciples, right? To teach them and to baptize them. And in other words, to grow the church. Now, how do we do that? That's the question that we really want to know, don't we? We want to know, how are you going to use me? Am I going to go to the deepest, darkest Africa? Or do I want to just stay at home and work at my job and be a Christian that does local things for him? Or, you know, those kind of things we will wonder about, right? As a Christian, how God is going to be using us in his grand plan, let's say. But anyway, but there's certain things about God we got to understand before we can get to understanding more of why God does what he does, okay? And these are called the nature of God, is in the general category. And so there's three predominant areas of the nature of God. Now I got them behind me, and I think we'll see them as we come on. One of his natures is omniscience, or omniscient. Another one is omnipresence, or omnipresent. Another is omnipotent. Now those are some big $10 words. What do they mean? Well, omni is, I think it's Latin or Greek. I'm not sure. I think it's Latin. Omni means all. So when you ever see the word omni, it means all of it, not part of it, not a little bit of it, but all of it. So omniscient, it has to do with omniscience. See, it has to do with knowledge. Present, obviously, presence, you know, where something is. And potent, if something's potent, it's what? Powerful. Strong. So this is all powerful, all present, all knowing. So does that help? That's part of the fundamental nature of God is these things. Now where do we get these things? Well, we get them from the Bible, verses 9. We're going to be looking at those three things. How wonderful it is, because David put all of them in one place for us. Now, throughout the Bible, we see these attributes. That's the word I was looking for. The three main attributes of God. Are there other attributes? Yes, there are. But these are the three main categories.
Well, they cover a multitude of other things each. Yeah.
Right. So we're going to be looking at this, and we'll be talking about God's care and how he has personal interest in each one of us. God cares for us each personally. Does that, when you hear that, does that make the hair on the back of your neck come up a little bit and you realize
It's amazing.
What's that?
It's amazing.
It is. It should thrill us as Christians to realize that God cares that much for each one of us. Anyway, so let's look at the first one. First one we're going to talk about is his knowledge. And this is in Psalm 139. All these main verses are in Psalm 139. And verses 1 through 4. And these first 4 verses, by the way, you can read from whatever translation you like to read from. You don't have to use the one I gave you, which is the New American Standard. Or you can use your favorite if you like as well. But the first 4 verses here, I want you to listen for how many times the word no appears in some form, okay? As you go through, just initially, just be thinking about that. Who's got number 1? Who's number 1? Oh, right, go ahead, Steve.
Like door number 1.
Yeah.
O Lord, you have searched me and known me. You know when I sit down and when I rise up. You understand my thought from afar. You scrutinize my path and my lying down, and are intimately acquainted with all my ways. Even before there is a word on my tongue, behold, O Lord, you know it all.
Here now I found it. The title, the subtitle or whatever for these verses, God's omnipresence and omniscience. It says, for the choir director, a psalm of David. So they sang these words as they were in time of worship. We do similar things, right? We sing choruses and hymns, the same kind of thing. It talks about these kind of attributes. So this was a thing that David wrote, that the choir they had in worship time put to music and sang. They sang these verses. So in these first verses, how many times do you see the word no? Do you see it at all? I see it.
1, 2,
3.
3? Could be. I don't have the right answer here, by the way. This is just an interesting exercise on this.
I was thinking you meant the word N-O.
No. K-N-O.
Yeah,
K-N-O or K-N-O-W.
there's an N-O in it.
There is an N-O in it, yes. To know something.
I see it.
Have knowledge of something, right? In some form or another. Well, obviously, right off the bat, we see the word in the first verse, right? Oh Lord, you have searched me and known me.
Yeah.
Okay? So you know, in other words, you know all about me.
Well, then the word aware is also would
Yes.
be like know.
Yes, exactly.
When you encircled me would be know very well, because it would be like we were in his arms.
Yes. Yeah. You know when I sit down and when I rise up. That's another one. You know or you understand my thought from afar. So that you see, a lot of the people in that time had an idea of God. Well, this is the God of Egypt, or this is the God of the Midians. So when you went to that area, you didn't worry about your old God because he's back home. You worry about the new God, right? God is everywhere. God is in control of the whole earth aspect. And so this is bringing that out. You understand my thoughts from afar. Even though the Israelites were taken away into bondage a couple times, right? God was with them wherever they went, and he brought them back again. Anyway, it says, you scrutinize my path. Now what does that mean, to scrutinize something?
Examine.
Carefully examine. So, like when you go to the doctor checks your blood, checks your vitals. He is finding out about you medically. Find out, are you okay? Right? You were saying something, Steve?
Examined.
Examined, yes. So that's part of knowledge as well, right? Knowing something. It says you are intimately acquainted. If you're acquainted with somebody, do you know them? We had a couple people visiting last night that we knew from a couple of years ago, and they live in Idaho now. But they came out here for a wedding, right? So we became reacquainted with them, but we know them.
Yeah.
And all my ways, not just some things, but all my ways. It says, even before a word was on my tongue, listen to this. Even before a word was on my tongue, oh behold, oh Lord, you know it. You know it all. So we see lots of stuff like that in there, right? So when we talk about this as, again, knowledge, we're talking about omniscience or omniscient. Same idea. And it means all knowing, right? Under this column, now, I think I included in your handouts, handout number, what one? Number 3 probably. Yes, there it is. It's a copy of this that is on the wall. And oh, by the way, that poster right there. So I had thoughts that maybe I'll write them all down. But you know what? I'm going to let you guys write it if you want to. By the way, I'm sorry I covered up the map there. You're probably checking something on that too.
Yeah.
But you have one in the back.
Yes.
Anyway, so if you want to, you can take a pencil or pen and fill these in as we talk about it. It's up to you. But we're looking at right now, what are some of the thoughts, words, or action that we could put under there from these 4 verses? Kind of talked about that, didn't we? What is one action you see in, let's say, the very first verse?
You have searched.
Searched, right? Searched. Now, this word search, search and know. So the Hebrew word for searched is hekar, which I don't care, but that they told us that anyway. It carries the idea of a tireless examination. It was used in court settings to describe a thorough investigation. And Proverbs 18:17 talks about that. I know I got those verses.
Well, I can read that.
Oh, is that our first verse?
That says B.
Oh, we're getting there. Yeah, that's right. That's the next one. Go ahead and read that one.
The first to plead his case seems right, until another comes and examines him.
So in other words, until we look carefully at something, we won't know all about it, right? Yeah. See that in a lot of these court dramas you watch on TV or a movie, let's say. I like Perry Mason. Okay? I know it's old.
I do too.
I know it's old, but I find it fascinating how they get in and find out all the details of these things. Murder She Wrote's another old one. It's a kind of a mystery thing. The same idea. They found out all the details that they would never have found just looking at it on the top or the surface. And you find out how maybe the motivation of what they did and exactly how they did it. Columbo's another favorite of mine. Oh, I love that old show. That was different from all the other ones, though, because in Columbo you saw the guy commit the crime, and then he tried to outwit Columbo, which he never could. So, anyway, going on, I'm getting bogged down in that.
In the old shows, the good guy always won.
That's right. That's right. Even when he lost, he eventually won. But anyway, this word, this Hebrew word that they use to describe the searching they're talking about, or means tireless examination. There is another verse. Who has A? Letter
I
A.
do.
Go ahead and read that.
No, I have
word.
B, I think.
Okay.
No, I have A.
You have A?
Sorry.
And this is in Luke 15:8-10. By the way, I think I have it on my the second page of handout number. Yeah, I do. Handout number 1 on the second page. On the second page it says additional verses. Go ahead and read that one.
Or what woman, it's the parable of the lost coin, or what woman who has 10 silver coins, if she loses one coin, does not light a lamp, sweep the house, and search carefully until she finds it. When she finds it, she calls her women friends and the neighbors together, saying, "Rejoice with me, because I have found the silver coin I lost." I tell you, in the same way, there is joy in the presence of God's angels over one sinner who repents.
See, this is Jesus speaking here, and he's using a parable, a short story, to illustrate a point. Now, he's done this many times in the same idea. One of them is a pearl that was lost, I think, a pearl of great price or something. No, it wasn't lost. It was the person wanted to buy it, and he saved to find it. It showed the value of it. But in this particular one, she loses one of her coins, and we think, well, I'll look around for it for a while. No, it was important to her, very important.
Wow.
And so she searched diligently until she found it. Another illustration he uses is a shepherd who has 100 sheep. One of them is gone. So the idea is he searches. I'm sure he had somebody watching the other 99. But he looks and looks and looks until he finds wherever that sheep is. And the picture of the sheep is it fell down this little spot, and he uses his shepherd's crook to pull it up to safety. You ever seen that picture before? Yeah. And essentially, though, it's showing he cares for every one of them. If he loses one, he's not going to stop till he finds it. That's the same kind of thought here you see in verse 1. It says, "O Lord, you have searched me." In other words, he's examining carefully all about us. So he knows us. He knows us, is what David's saying. He knows us very well. Let's see, what else was I going to say about that one? You read that one already, so we're good on that one too. So that thorough investigation that Proverbs 18:17 talked about also. Similarly, the Hebrew word for known indicates an intimate level of knowledge that results in a personal understanding of an individual. We have that in a lot of situations in our lives. We have that level, if you will. One of them is in marriage. Also, if you have kids, you know those kids so well, you can predict what they're going to do.
Yeah.
Or you know your spouse so well, you know what that person's going to do, right? That's that kind of knowledge that God has of us, only even more. Even better, Well, it may not be better, because sometimes we like to do what? Three-letter word.
Sometimes there's a sneaky thing.
Sin.
Yes.
Yes. Sin, what's that? Yeah.
Yes.
But we like to sometimes think we can hide that from God. And David's pointing out the ridiculousness of that idea. You know, because you know me so well. You know me. You know the words I'm going to say before I say it. I think that's what the last part of it. Yeah. Is this something that can scare us sometimes?
Yes.
Yes.
We should be in awe of it more than, I mean, it's like
We should
godly
be,
fear.
but sometimes we're not.
You're right, sometimes.
I remember an evangelist who was preaching at this one church I was at a long time ago, and he was talking about that our lives, ourselves, is like a house. And when we become a Christian, God's Spirit comes and dwells in a house with us. Okay, and we got come on in the Holy Spirit, come on in the living room. You know, great place here. You know, this is my TV, this is my stereo. We have a good time here. And this is the kitchen over there. You can take that room. No, you can't go to that room. That room's closed.
Oh, yeah.
Why is it closed? You think I don't know what goes on in that room? I do. You know, and so the point of the evangelist was, when you become a Christian, all that is laid bare, and you need to confess those things and get them right. So there's no problem with the fellowship between you and God. Because that can happen, can't it? If we let those things become important in our lives, more important than God, and He knows that. He knows that. And David was talking about this here in these words. He's talking about his all-knowing personality, the attribute of God that's all-knowing here. Excuse me. Verse 2, it talks about, it says, because God sees us perfectly, He doesn't miss even the seemingly insignificant details of our life, whether we sit down or stand up. Think about that. Isn't that interesting? You scrutinize my path. I like that. Because I'm on the wrong path. I want to know. You know. So we need to be sensitive to the Holy Spirit saying, "Hey, by the way, you're on the wrong path." You know.
Oh, yeah.
I see what's coming. Get off that path. You know. Don't be on that path. Listening to the Lord and following what He says. It's a struggle for us at all times for some reason, because we have our own way of doing things and we're comfortable with them. We are comfortable, let's face it. Whatever that thing is in our life, everybody has that kind of thing, we're kind of comfortable with it. We don't want to change. And that's what stops a lot of people from being Christians, because they think, well, I'm going to have to change all that. And they're right, but you see, your heart changes, and this is another old term, but your wanter changes. It should change.
Your what?
Your wanter.
Oh, yeah.
The wanter inside of who
Yeah.
wants things, whatever it might be, you know, it should change as well. And sometimes it doesn't change immediately. You have to be sensitive to the Holy Spirit's prompting us to change those things in our life that aren't following Him. Anyway, I'm talking too much. I gotta stop talking here. But to ask a question here, we talked about this already a little bit. How does realizing that God knows all of our thoughts, all of our words, and all of our actions, even before we say or do these things, how does that make us feel? What do you think? We kind of talked about it some
I
already.
feel like He's watching over you. It's like a loving parent.
Yeah.
You know, that. But
Is it a comfort then?
I think
Yeah.
so.
But it can also be a fear.
It can be
Because we don't want to open up.
intimidating if you
Yeah.
are.
I don't want to open up that door in
No.
my life, Lord. Let me have that one little secret sin or whatever it is, you know? Yeah, but He already knows. That's the thing. That we're thinking we're keeping something from Him. We're not. And that can be excruciating when we have certain habits in our life that are hard to break, you know? But these verses realize what? That God cares for us too. Otherwise, He wouldn't bother. But He does care for us. Because He cares for us so much, that's why we see this aspect of God in our lives. It says, recognizing how God is all-knowing and still cares about each believer is something that's overwhelming. David realizes, even though I committed adultery with Bathsheba, even though I had her husband killed, God still cared for David. Wow. You know, God still cares for us too. Even when we have something in our lives like that too, is what we can take away from this. This should lead us to praise his omniscience, all knowing. And it's sometimes a hard thing to come up to, but this is what should lead us to do that, right? Sometimes we're not so quick to do that, though, because we have those little things we don't hold on to. Anyway, let's look at the next one. The next one is 139 verses 7 through 12. It's describing his presence. We talked about his knowledge. Now we're going to talk about his presence here. This is the second attribute, the main attribute of God. There we go. And for these verses, I want you. Okay, we're going to actually look at verse 7 by itself first. That's right. In verse 7, I want you to think about how you might answer David's question. Okay, who's got number 2? Okay, so just read verse 7. Go ahead.
Where can I go to escape your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence?
Okay, good question. Why would David want to, first of all? Maybe because he had committed sin, perhaps?
Yes, you don't want to, he didn't want to say that openly to God, but from his previous experience, he knew God was already aware.
And what's I going to say about that? Oh, it's interesting. When David committed that sin with Bathsheba and had that guy murdered, he didn't readily admit to it, did he? He thought, it's behind me. I'm king. That's okay. I can do what I want to. He forgot. No, he can't. He forgot that. And he was reminded by then the prophet Nathan, who came to him and had a parable for him. A parable of this man who had one little ewe sheep. And the next door neighbor was very wealthy and he had visitors coming and he says, I'm going to take that ewe sheep and I'm going to have it killed and feed it to my guests. He says, what should we do about this man, David? Well, we should kill him or something. It was a very drastic thing.
Yeah.
And Nathan pointed his finger and says, you are that man.
Yeah.
God knows what you did. And so that was a very enlightening thing for David to go through. I mean, it was an amazing thing that he recovered from that, I think. But we see that happening there, right? So, how would you answer that question? Where can you go from God's Spirit?
You can't.
Okay.
There's no one, nowhere.
You could try to. You could wall them off with other sins, perhaps, with denials in your life. And people can sometimes do that, but it's not the reality of it. Where can you flee from God's presence? Where can you go to? What town or where can you hide from God's presence? Is there a place to go to that God can't find you?
No.
There is there? And there's some good examples that talks about that in. I think it talks about this later on here. Yeah. But do you remember the prophet Jonah?
Yeah. He thought he could hide.
Now he's a minor prophet, not because of how young he was. He's a minor prophet because how many verses we have about him, and not a lot. But he was told to go to the capital city of the enemy of Israel, Nineveh, and to preach to them so they would reject their ways and turn to God, right? And Jonah knew the power of God. And he said, no, I'm going to go the opposite direction. Nineveh's that way, I'm going to Tarshish. And so he thought he could flee from God. You'd think the prophet of God would not think that. But he thought, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to go this way. But we got out of their minds because we know what happened to Jonah. We know the storm that came up. He was thrown into the water. We know the giant fish, whale, whatever you call it, swallowed him and then spit him up on the shore after 3 days, by the way, or 3 nights or whatever it was. And it's an interesting
must have been a very stinky place to live for 3 days.
And it says that God appointed a fish, so this could have been a special creation just to handle Jonah. We don't know. There's been accounts of people who have actually been swallowed by things, and they got them out fairly quickly, and they were still alive. That's not very often, but they find, and this one guy had real pale skin, and his hair had been taken off, but he was still alive.
Last one I remember reading about was just after the turn into the 19th, 20th century. the whaling crew, somebody fell overboard and got swallowed by a whale, and they got the whale out, they cut him out. The guy was basically catatonic state,
Yeah.
sheet white from being bleached by
Stomach
everything
juices.
else, but he was alive.
Yeah. I remember seeing a picture of this guy. Was he in a kayak? He was in some small thing, like a paddleboard or something. I don't know what it was, but these whales came up like this to get all the shrimp and stuff, and got swept up in this thing. And he was in there for a few minutes, and then they finally, the whales like chucked him out, and he was okay. But it was an experience. But anyway, all that to say is Jonah thought he could run away from God. He couldn't. God said, no, I'm going to appoint a storm, and then I'm going to appoint a whale, and you're going to do what I said that you're going to do. And so he could not flee, right? And that's where can I go from your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence? The answer is nowhere, right? Nowhere. Why is that? Well, let's look at the next verses. Can you finish your reading? And read 8 through 12, and listen for David's description of the places that God would be with him. Go ahead.
If I go up to heaven, you are there. If I make my bed in Sheol, you are there. If I live at the eastern horizon or settle on the western limits, even there your hand will lead me. Your right hand will hold on to me. If I say, surely the darkness will hide me, and the light around me will be night. Even the darkness is not dark to you. The night shines like the day. Darkness and light are alike to you.
So like I mentioned before, Jonah, he knows the answer to this question. If you were asked people, Jonah's hand would go up first. I know, you can't go anywhere.
Yeah.
So this is what David's saying, right? I cannot run away from you. And this is not because he wants to necessarily. He's describing for other people to understand this idea about God. And he's not saying it in a bad way, in other words. And
At least once he did want to run away.
well, okay,
After Bathsheba,
yeah, that's true.
he knew that was wrong.
So it asks a series of questions, right? It says, if I ascend into heaven, who's there already? God's there.
God is there.
Now, okay, when they say heaven, there's three ideas of heaven they had. One was where the birds fly. The other is where the stars are. And the other is where God dwells. Okay, it was the general concept that was all considered heaven. Okay, and so basically it's where you can't go. You can't go. Now we can go up into space nowadays, but the idea in that world at that time, no one can go up like that. It's the furthest you could think of up and away. So that's one idea. And then what's the next thing he says there?
To Sheol, which is
Okay.
the grave, or
It says, if I make my bed in Sheol, behold, you are there. Now by Sheol, they mean the netherworld, which is underground in their concept also. They were thinking of the place of Sheol. It was a place of where the dead would go to, their spirits would go to, okay?
sometimes Sheol is translated as hell, sometimes
Yeah.
it's translated as pit or as grave.
Yes.
So,
There's a couple of concepts of that, but basically it's where you don't want to go.
yeah.
And you cannot go there. It's until you die. It's the other end of the spectrum, right? It's the other end of the spectrum. So what does that mean then for their minds, especially because, like I said, we can go up in space now. But in their minds, where is
Sheol is
where
a
is
bad
it?
place.
Where is it you can go?
Oh,
Nowhere,
No.
because God is there.
yeah.
God is there. So that's where we get the omnipresence aspect in these verses, right? What's another interesting thing here is he also talks about extreme locations. Where was that now? Okay, in verse 9, if I take the wings of the dawn, what is the wings of the dawn? Think about this. Where does the sun first come up?
In the east.
In the east, right? Yeah. If I dwell in the remotest parts of the sea. Okay, so if you go, I wish I had my map showing a little bit better. So east is that way, right? West is this way on the map. And if you're looking at the map, well, shoot, maybe I'll just get it pulled up. And here is the Israel area, right? If you go east, what do you run into?
The Badlands, the desert, right?
Desert.
All those areas are there. If you go west, what do you run into?
See.
The sea, right? So that gives you a little graphic there that sometimes it's easier to see on a map. That's what he's talking about. If you go this way, it's the farthest reaches that I know of, that way. Or if you go this way, you can't go any further than those areas in their mind. So this was showing what? The totality.
Yes.
This is what I'm getting to, is at totality. So he raised the possibility of visiting these extreme locations imaginable to the ancient Jewish mind. From Israel going east suggests heading towards sunrise at dawn. Anyone planning to go in that direction would never reach their destination in those days. You go through the desert and probably die out there, unless you're really, really prepared. We're in a caravan, but he's not talking about it. He's talking about the individual. Similarly, going towards the western horizon, you would meet the sea. The deep Mediterranean inevitably would halt their progress. In that day and age, it was a bad place to go. Most people did not go into the sea because it was unpredictable. It was deep. You couldn't, it was the idea of it was not a pleasant idea. You only used that if you had to. In Jonah's case, he took a ship, for instance. But anyway, these are what we're describing here is a literary term, and I bring it up only so to broaden your knowledge, because my knowledge is broadened about this. It's called a merism. Merism, M-E-R-I-S-M. What is a merism? If you look in your lesson book on page 108, it talks about merisms. But also in your handout, I also did some research a little bit on that as well. If you look at the second page, which is handout number 1, page 2, at the bottom, it says, what is a merism? A merism is a figure of speech in which a single word or concept is represented by two or more aspects of it, often contrasting aspects or opposites, okay? Thus conveying a broader view at the expense of possibly misunderstanding if it was taken too literally. A good example is Genesis 1:1. The heavens and the earth. God created the heavens and the earth. What is that? In their mind. That's everything. Everything. The stars, the sky, all that stuff, and the earth, the terra firma they were standing on. That encompassed everything. So when they use that, that's a way of showing everything, all of creation. So that's what that kind of term means. So that literary device is not just used in the Bible, it's used probably by us. When you say as far as the east is from the west, you're using the same kind of idea. So it's a literary term that's used that way. I think the lesson book describes it also, if I remember right. I think I mentioned that. Page 108. Yeah, the bottom of 108 says merisms are polar opposites used together in words or phrases in order to express totality or completeness or the whole. David began verse 8 with the merism of the vertical axis. If you go up the heavens, he's there. If you go down in the deep depths of the earth, he's there. The place of the dead, for instance. So no matter how high or how low you go, David would discover God is there. And then he talked about the horizontal axis, east and west. We talked about that already. David's point was that no matter how far east you could go to the horizon or how far west you could go in the opposite direction beyond the Mediterranean, God would be there. Now, if God is in all those places, what does that say about his strength and his power?
Omnipotent.
And we're going to talk about that in a moment. Omnipotence, right? Yeah, omnipotent. And we're doing okay, so I think, see if I didn't miss anything here. The question they ask is, what merisms do you see that highlight God's omnipresence? We already talked about that, being all present. David's point was that it is impossible to hide from God or escape from his presence. Now, again, could that be a scary thing? Could be, right? Jonah thought, I'll escape. I'll go the opposite direction.
No, yeah.
It wasn't comforting because the storm came up that God appointed, and then he got swallowed by the fish. And he ended up going to Nineveh anyway. And then he said, okay, fine, I'm here. Oh, okay. And then he said, I'll do it. And he said, in 30 days, you're going to be overthrown and you're going to be burned up. And that was his message. That was his only message. And he walked through the whole town, which took 3 days. And behind him, people were taking it to heart and repenting and turning to God. He didn't want that. He did not want that. But that's what he used Jonah in that way anyway. And there was revival in Nineveh.
It didn't last a long time, but it was for a while. So he did do his God's bidding, and God showed him that he was in charge because the Ninevites repented. Exactly what Jonah did not want. He went up in the hill to watch. Yeah. Okay, God, go ahead and drop the lightning and all that terrible thing on him. And God said, no. You've done what I said, now I've taken over that. So anyway, David's point was it is impossible to hide from God or escape his presence. While God's consistent presence might terrify those trying to hide from him, it does offer genuine comfort for those who trust him. That's the key right there. Do we trust God with this fact of knowing that he's all-knowing, all-present, and all-powerful? We're going to talk about that here in a moment here. Let's go with the last point. God's, his power. We're going to verses 13 through 16. Wait a minute, did I forget the verse there? Oh, I did. Who's got C?
I got that one.
Read C for me, please.
God told Amos, though they dig into Sheol, from there will my hand take them. And though they ascend to heaven, from there will I bring them down.
So Amos is another one of the minor prophets, right? And he's referring to the word that David used, that word Sheol, which means the netherworld, or down deep. You can't go any lower. And so Amos was also talking about that same thing. Though I dig into Sheol, I can't escape. I can't escape. Essentially saying the same thing, right? Very similar things there. Let's look at the last one now. And these last four verses, note how God is the God of creation, and nothing is hidden from him. All right, and this is displaying his power. Basically, we're talking about that. Who has the last one? Number 3. Go ahead.
For you formed my inward parts. You wove me in my mother's womb. I will give thanks to you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works, and my soul knows it very well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was made in secret and skillfully brought in the depths of the earth. Your eyes have seen my unformed substance, and in your book were all written the days that were ordained for me, when as yet there was not one of them.
So David realized something critical at this point here, and he's trying to share it with people here. He says, you are so powerful. You formed me. Even when people couldn't see I was there, you knew. And you took the care to weave me together in my mother's womb. Isn't that a neat verse? It's a very, very strong verse for the sanctity of human life. It's used a lot of times when people are talking about it. But it says, I give thanks to you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. If you think about the human body, and all the different things that have to work perfectly for us to be alive, to be able to see, to be able to think, and all these things. If you think about all those things, it's almost scary, in my mind,
Every time that I
to realize the power of God. What's that?
every time that I helped with a birth, I thought,
Oh,
You know.
yeah.
it's perfect.
Yeah.
Well, in the it was a small hospital, so any high-risk pregnancies we sent to Anchorage, but we had the easy deliveries, or relatively. But
You hope they were.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But it was how
Fascinating
How
experience.
can that
Yeah.
two little cells make this child
Yeah.
that's perfect?
Yeah. It says, your eyes have seen my unformed substance. And it says, in your book was written all the days ordained for me, when as yet there was not one of them. God knows us so intimately, so lovingly, that he knows what we're going to be doing in our life, right? And it just boggles my mind that we think sometimes that we're more powerful than God on these kind of things, right? But anyway, so we see in here a lot of truths. What truths do you see in these verses? I should say before I say things. What truths do you see being shown in these verses?
Verse 14 I love.
Okay.
Because I'm wonderfully made. Yeah. For him to, Well, most of the songs are beautiful. They're like poems, and well, I guess they were songs originally, but you know, were wonderfully made.
Yeah. The fact that it's in secret, yet he knows.
Yeah.
He knows. He's watching over you. So a lot of these things, they're just, it boggles my mind when I start thinking about the power of God here, just in the creation of me personally. But then you extend it to all of humankind, all of the animals, this world, the world that has to be the right size, the right distance from a certain kind of star, in a part of the galaxy that's just the right spot, so we can see the galaxy and yet not get burned up by it. All these things, the gravity is just a certain kind of gravity. We've got a moon just the right size. We have the right amount of elements. All these things, and yet that could go wrong are perfect, and are in a perfect balance. Boggles the mind. Anyway, so let's. He reflected on this, and he remarked the sincere worship at this point, and it was rooted in humble adoration. He recognized that he was remarkably and wondrously created by the powerful hand of God. He saw the artistic as well as the technical, the precision that went into the creation of him. And he realized how wonderful God was, how powerful God was. We should do the same. We should reflect on that, I think. And I see things in creation all the time, and I just wonder, they talk about the bumblebee. I was reading something on Facebook or something about the bumblebee, and it should not fly. But it does. Because God made it so good. Aerodynamically, it's not supposed to fly. They've studied the bumblebee and they say it can't fly, and it does. Amazing how God does those things. So we talked in our lesson about these three areas. I'm going to summarize them. The first one is that Christians, believers, can praise God for his knowledge of them. We can be praising him that he knows us this well, right? Yes, we can also be scared a little bit sometimes, but we should be praising him. Second point, Christians can be comforted by his presence, the fact that he's always there. We're not without God. If we feel like we're without God, it's because we probably put up a barrier ourselves. But he's in reality still there. And the last point is that Christians can be encouraged that God has purposely created them to serve him, that he is that powerful that he can do that. These are rhetorical questions. I'm going to just read them real quick. How has God's presence comforted you in the past and present? Think about that. These are thinking questions here. Have there been times when the knowledge of God, that he knows you that intimately, caused you sometimes some discomfort? Yeah. There is peace that comes upon us when we understand and guarantee of his presence that is provided for us when we put our trust in him. And when we understand his omniscience, his omnipresence, and his omnipotence. Let's have a word of prayer. We're not going to get to our hymn today. I have a hymn that you can look at later if you like hymns. It's a well-known one. To God Be the Glory, I think. Yeah, by Fanny J. Crosby. It's a great hymn of faith. But let's have a word of prayer. Heavenly Father, I just thank you for how wonderfully, how fearfully you made us, Lord, and how you created this world. Lord, I just pray that, like it says in verse 24 of 139, if there's any hurtful way in me, Lord, I pray that you lead me in the everlasting way instead. And I just thank you for all you've done. In your Son's precious name I pray. Amen. So, coming up in the next hour, Mark Bradley is our guest speaker. Who is Mark Bradley? He's the director at the Golden Gate Seminary here in Vancouver. It's a sub area of the main place. But anyway, the Golden Gate Seminary is a Baptist theological seminary, and so I'm looking forward to hearing him. Thank you for being with us online as well in the class. This is Grace Baptist Church, the Adult One Bible Study. My name is Norm Ellis. Glad you're with us, and I hope you have a great week. Be standing by in the next hour on the same YouTube channel online, and you can see Mark Bradley preaching. Thank you. God bless you all.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. I want to end stream. There it goes. End.